Evil is real. On today's Playing with Fire, we're diving into a really interesting topic, a new show. It's a cartoon, and it's called Little Demon. It's a show about a woman who mates with Satan, yes, you heard that correctly, and has a child, the Antichrist. Now, this cartoon is on FXX. It's a Disney-owned network, and it's making a lot of waves. A lot of people very unhappy about this show, very concerned about this show. And so I'm going to have Mike Signorelli on today. He's the lead pastor of V1 Church in New York City to talk about the occultic themes in the show and really to just address whether or not parents should be concerned. Why is culture turning to these sorts of things? And what do we make of it as Christians? With no further ado, let's welcome Mike Signorelli to Playing with Fire. So we are here today to talk about a title that both you and I can't even believe we're talking about. It's Little Demon. That's the name of this cartoon. It's a series on FXX. Now, this is a Disney-owned network, and it's a network that is really aimed at 18 to 34-year-olds. We're going to get into all this, but let me just read a line before I get your reaction here. And the line is, this is a promo from the show. When your father is the devil and your mother gave birth to the Antichrist, there's bound to be some conflict. All right, so let's dive right in. What is your reaction to this show?
Well, I want to start off by saying I also can't believe that this show exists. I think if we could go back 30 years and watch this show from today, everybody would universally be shocked and appalled. But what happens is things incrementally change year over year to where you can accept what you would have never accepted in a previous generation. And, listen, as a Christian, I believe that the enemy is after our children. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities, powers, and rulers in high places. Ephesians talks about it. We've got to wear the full armor of God to withstand all of the attacks of the enemy. And to me, it would be just like the enemy to say, we're going to put a cartoon out there that is not for children. And I'm saying this in air quotes, except for we all know that children want to watch what they're not supposed to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and also, look, I know there are a lot of adults who like cartoons, I guess. I'm not one of them. I don't mind the old school ones, watching them with my kids, but it is strange. Here you have a network that's purportedly tailoring content to 18 to 34-year-olds, right? That's the point of this network, and they're doing it through cartoon form. That's really interesting, as you mentioned, but there's another piece of this puzzle I think we need to talk about. One of the characters, the centerpiece, this daughter that we're talking about, is a teenager. And when you dig into it, it appears that this kid is a 13-year-old. So why do you think a cartoon with a 13-year-old character is something that adults would even be interested in?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, if the character is 13 but the target demographic is young adults, what interest does a young adult have in watching an entire story about a child? And so again, it's one of those things where it's the type of content that kids know they shouldn't watch, but they are going to want to watch it. They're going to seek it out, and they know exactly what they're doing. We know what they're doing. And there's many deeper layers to this, which I know we're going to talk about. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, you relate to the characters most who are in the season of life that you're in. Those are the
Yeah.
ones that you connect with, whether it's a movie, it's a novel. If you think about it, that character resonated with you because you felt like you connected with them. And so it's pretty obvious that this character had to be the centerpiece to attract all of the other teenage girls, teenage boys. And it's an agenda.
Yeah, I mean, it feels very strange to me. If I'm an adult, I want to watch adult characters. We've seen this with Euphoria and all these other shows and that's not a cartoon, obviously, but where you're pulling in these teen storylines and marketing it to adults. To your point, and I remember this as a kid too, you want to watch the things you can't watch. You want to be sort of diving into that content, and it becomes attractive to a kid, especially when it's a cartoon, to dive into that. But the broader issue here we are in America, 2022. We're looking at chaos culturally, so much going on here. What does a cartoon like this tell us about culture? A cartoon that never, even 5 years ago, would have made its way on the airwaves.
Okay, so I did some research. I watched the trailer. I tried to watch footage, and I'll tell you this 13-year-old girl is being bullied in school. And all of a sudden, something ignites on the inside of her, this dark, evil presence. Her eyes glaze over and go completely black. And then she suddenly has this power that she didn't know she had before, totally awakened inside of her. And so, what I think it's actually saying is that these problems that you're encountering the solution to them could be the demonic. And I know it sounds crazy to even say that out loud, but it used to be in, in previous years that it was more secular humanistic. Like we have a power inside of ourselves. Maybe it's a superpower, and it was always good versus evil. And now, I mean, it's pretty plain to see it's evil. It's good evil versus evil. Although there's no such thing as good evil, but that's the way that they're presenting it.
Yeah, I mean, you see this a lot too, even in circles. In fact, one of the actors in this series gave some past comments in an interview in which she was talking about, I don't practice black magic, but she was talking about practicing magic. And it's interesting because this is what a lot of these religions are built on too, right? This idea that, it's white magic, it's good magic, and to your point, there's no such thing as that. Do you want to unpack that just a little bit? Because I think it's actually an important point as we talk about culture and this intersection of the occult coming in more and more, just sort of delineating between those two things.
Absolutely. Well, listen, don't just take my opinion. I mean, I went and looked for different interviews from some of the actors and actresses that are involved in this show to really hear them say out loud. The Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so, how do they talk about it? The lead actress, Aubrey Plaza, like you mentioned, this is a direct quote. Okay. She said, I love that we are normalizing paganism. She said this in an interview. This is a direct quote. And she says, Laura is a pagan. She's a witch. She's jacked, and she's got to protect her daughter against demons, and she's got to get her house in order.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting because it's setting up this juxtaposition, like you were just saying, in this cartoon, the pagan, right, is fighting evil, is sort of like the superhero in a weird sense, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it really what this shows us is there's a departure away from church, away from Christ, and now it is into the new age. It's into paganism. And I really believe, I mean, I could be wrong, but my prediction is that we will see many more shows, many more movies with this same philosophical worldview, this perspective, because hey, mom's a witch and she's protecting me from demons. But it's just like Jesus said, a house divided against itself can't stand. You don't cast Beelzebub out by the power of Beelzebub, but it would be just like the devil to convince you that's possible. And so now, yeah, the hero of this story, that the protector against demons, is a witch now. And to me, it couldn't get any more obvious. But see, that's what I see. Listen, when you go to the grocery store now, and I challenge anybody listening to go like try me, when you go to the magazine aisle or the book section, they have what you will see most prominently displayed are books on the New Age. You won't see Bibles. You won't even see the Quran. You will see the New Age. And more specifically, the marketing of these books are marketed also to kids. They're cartoonish. They're on the lower levels of the shelves. I've got videos of major retailers, major grocery store chains here in the United States. And to me, that is the dominant worldview. People want to be spiritual but not religious, so they're swapping out Christianity for the New Age. And this show pretty much just embodies all of that.
Well, and let's just, coming off of this show, because it is interesting with what we're talking about, the themes here, this notion of the God of the self, that we've got a culture that's telling people, basically you worship yourself. You choose whatever you want to do, whatever feels good, whatever works for you. The only truth you can know is the truth that's inside of yourself. You know all of this. I mean, this is the common theme.
Yeah.
It is interesting when you see Christianity, quote unquote, waning. You see people moving away from faith culturally because of all of the pressure and all the information that's being shot towards young people, that they're looking for a place to go. And so when you've got this God of the self, it almost makes sense that you would go towards the occult because you're the one that has the power. You're the one, right, that can do these things, apparently. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all as a pastor. And you're not just a pastor, you're somebody who goes around doing revivals. You're really dealing with this issue of evil on the front lines.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been all over the country in the last couple of months asking people to exchange a lesser power for the greatest power, which is the cross of Jesus Christ. I mean, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess Jesus as Savior, and there's a name above every name. And we've had people bringing crystals and people bringing sage that they've burned, and they've said, "Well, I'm burning sage in my home to rid myself of demons," but the demonic activity increased, and so eventually what happens as you get involved in these alternative spiritual power sources is you eventually realize that the demonic increases in your life instead of decreases, and then you become a victim, whereas you thought you were going to become the victor. And the thing is, I've gone all across America proving this to people. As here's the thing, every military on the planet operates in fatigues because camouflage, it actually, there's a strategic advantage to being hidden. And so the enemy wants to remain hidden behind paganism, behind the new age. Oh, like you said, it's the power of you, but behind that is a spirit. And the thing that we've got to do as Christians is confront that spirit, expose that spirit. And for me, and you can see this, a lot of people getting deliverance, a lot of people manifesting and then being free, and then saying, "Wow, the result I hope to get from the new age, the result I hope to get from witchcraft, actually I got that and more through Christ. Now I have peace that surpasses all understanding." Now matter of fact, I ran into somebody in the airport that told me a story today from the revival tour that I just got off of. But here's what scares me about this show. There's this scene in the trailer of this guy, and he's got this southern draw, so he's kind of representative of, like, conservative America. You can see that they made like a cliche out of him, and he's got this gun, and he's just shooting his gun into this big spiritual vortex that's forming as this huge, like, satanic thing is happening. And he's like, and he's screaming, "I liked things the way they were." And as he's shooting his gun into this big satanic spiritual thing, and he's screaming, "I like," and he kind of says it in a southern draw, it really shows you that what's happening right now is they're trying to make it out like Christians, what we believe, what we stand for, it's expired. And we need to move on into the new thing. And we're resistant. And just kind of as he was shooting his gun, it looked like a vain effort. Like, there's no way you can stop this. And I really believe that what we're feeling, what parents are feeling, is this greater demonic force that's pulling our kids away, pulling our young people away. And we're just these hopeless Christians that can't do anything to stop it.
It's interesting that what you just described, because I think that's the perfect illustration of where we are right now and what is happening with Christian values. And it's interesting in light of this cartoon too, because you have a couple of different dynamics. One is the normalization of these things, which we've been talking about, right? The other end of that is that for some people, we're almost laughing about Satan now and we're cartoonifying it, right? Oh, so he's just this joke that doesn't really exist. We can make fun of it because it's not real. How dangerous is that part of it, right? Because I could see both things being true at the same time for different people.
Yeah, it's very dangerous because, well, let me put it like this. If whatever we do in moderation, the next generation does in extremes. And when you open that door and you just say, "Yeah, this is normal, this is funny," then it becomes serious. And, again, just going through this show, some of the lines, this girl's walking out of a party and says, "If my parents ever show up to a party, murder me." I mean, the comedy that they're using in this show is so over the top with the intention to desensitize. I mean, here in America, we have a problem with murder. And so to me, it's like, where did that originate from? I think culture, it feeds the masses spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and then it ultimately directs their actions. I mean, I have the same biological brain as somebody overseas. The difference is the operating system that was installed by the conditions around me. And so it's so important. And here's the thing, parents do not screen their children's screen time anymore, and they don't know what they're watching. And so there's a high likelihood that kids are going to get access to the show, binge watch an entire season of it. And just like a computer, their mind is being programmed with this demonic ideology. The Bible talks about the doctrine of demons. Most Christians don't even go to church anymore. But even if you did, it's your kid maybe gets 1 hour of Christian instruction instruction a week at church, but then they binge watch this show called Little Demon on an iPad in their room, and you don't even know that they are watching it, and they got 17 hours of demonic doctrine. And
Yeah.
so I believe it's really scary. I wanted to read Second Timothy chapter 3 because when I watched the trailer of this show, my spirit was like screaming this verse out. I'm just going to read it because I believe we're in this era. It says, "Be sure of this, in the last days hard times will come. People will love themselves, they'll love money, and then it says they'll talk about themselves and they'll be proud. They'll say wrong things about people. They will not obey their parents. They will not be thankful. They will not keep anything holy." And there was something about that line, they will not keep anything holy. Here's the thing. If you do, I mean, we know there was a cartoonist who was beheaded for representing Muhammad. And so, even from an Islamic perspective, there's an understanding of we've got to keep things holy. And unfortunately, they did that in the most wrong way possible through murder. But it's like only Christians. It's like nothing is holy anymore. We don't keep things holy. And I think, of course, the world's going to act the way that they act. But there's something about Christians saying, holy means to be set apart. Verse 3 says, they will have no love. They will not agree with anybody. They will tell lies about people. They will have no self-control. They will beat people, and they will not love anything that is good. So this whole
Man.
show is that verse saying, we don't love anything that's good. Actually, we love everything that's evil.
Yeah, we're almost, we're either mocking it or we're praising it, right? Or both. And I think that's what we're watching happen everywhere. I won't name the retailer, but you mentioned a lot of retailers. There's a store my kids love to go to. It's geared towards kids. And in the book section of that store, in the middle of the store, are witchcraft books, horoscope books, the whole nine yards. Every time we go in, it is incredibly shocking to me to see that. And it shouldn't shock me anymore because the Ouija board is out at bookstores. I mean, all these things are there. They're out in the open. And I guess my final question for you, because you have young kids, I have young kids, a lot of people watching might have young kids or grandkids. How do we protect kids from this? Because it's going to get worse.
Yeah, the problem actually reveals the power. And I'll say it like that because you're not going to see Disney release an FX show all about Jesus Christ that's biblically accurate. And so the fact that we can't have a show about Jesus, but we can have a show about Satan tells you everything about the agenda. And so here's the thing. If you're watching this right now, the truth is you cannot keep your kids in a bubble. Even the best parent that tries to eliminate everything that comes through a device, they still have to walk out of your front door and go into the world. But it's not the water around the boat that sinks it, it's the water that gets in. And so you've got to fill every crack and crevice, plug every hole, and then take your bucket. And your bucket is called prayer. Your bucket is called reading the Bible, and begin to get the water that did get in out. And it's not too late because the biggest influence is the parent. And more so than any other factor, it's the voice of the parent. And I know life is hard right now. I know we're in an economic downturn. There's parents working 2 and 3 jobs and they're struggling. But the Bible says, seek first the kingdom, and then all these other things will be added unto you. The most important thing you provide for your kid is not the things that you provide through finances, but it's the things that you provide through the Spirit. And so it's like, I know that there's a lot of parents hearing this, they can feel so defeated, like, man, my kids got video games, I don't know what they are. They can beat themselves up. But I want to encourage you that you as a parent are the number one source of influence in their life because you represent godly covering. And that's the way God set it up. So he's going to empower you to have the conversations. And kids are curious about the spiritual realm. You asked about paganism. It used to be, well, we are appreciative of nature, and it's not necessarily supernatural. And many of us are atheists or agnostics ourselves. But then these shows come out that are all about the supernatural, which kind of proves, no, we are into witchcraft. We want to be warlocks. And so your kids, here's the good news. Your kids have an insatiable desire to learn about the spiritual realm, and that desire is from God. And so that's all Satan is exploiting with these shows. Your kids want to learn the Bible. Your kids, I feel like I'm going to cry right now because so many people need to hear this. Like, your kid wants to pray. Your kid doesn't want dead religion. No kid wants that. And so, but I'm telling you, your kid wants the power of God and wants to know that it's real. And so that's the good news. This is a desire to know about supernatural things. I was one of those kids that was obsessed with the supernatural, and I loved ghost stories, and I loved the
Same.
demonic, and yeah, and it scared me, and I couldn't go to sleep at night and all that. And I unrighteously fulfilled that desire. But when I begin to see, whoa, there's deliverance. There's people doing supernatural healing and operating in the gifts of the Spirit. And what's this all about? My curiosity took me on the road to righteousness. And so I actually believe that, again, this is not revealing the problem. This is actually revealing the power. And so the enemy knows kids want the supernatural. And so instead of just letting FX and Disney provide it, you provide as a parent. Build that altar in your home. Start to pray with your kids. Bring them in. Open up the door, the Bible, and begin. Say we're gonna look at these things. Let's read Mark chapter 5 about the demoniac. There's some riveting stuff, and let their imaginations be more powerful than these shows.
Well, and they're going to find it. Like you're saying, they're going to find it somewhere else. They're craving that truth and they're going to look for it. And there's so many counterfeits out there. And I so appreciate you breaking this all down, talking about this today, coming on. It's Mike Signorelli of V1 Church in New York City. Mike, where can people find you if they want more information on you and your ministry?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love for you guys to find me on YouTube, because I've got hours and hours of resources where I teach and train and break the Bible down. As a matter of fact, I have been on a global tour, and there are so many kids that wait in line to meet me. And the parents started watching the content, and then the kids listened in the room and started watching as well, even young kids. And that changed my perspective on, how much hunger there really is. And so it's all on my YouTube channel if you just search Mike Signorelli.
Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
We hope you enjoyed this bonus episode of Playing with Fire. If you want to know more about this topic, head over to Amazon or wherever books are sold and grab the book Playing with Fire, a modern investigation into demons, exorcism, and ghosts. Lots of information in there from a biblical perspective about what evil is, where it comes from, and how we are to deal with it as Christians. I'd also encourage you to head over to Edify, EDIFI, in the App Store. It's a Christian podcast app with thousands of shows just like this one to entertain, inspire, and build you up in your faith. We will see you very soon for the next episode of Playing with Fire. As promised, it will be part 2 of our conversation with Jared and Petra Knopf. We'll see you then.